like to introduce you to James Pearse Connelly.
Hi.
Hi, this is Desiree Gazetta. I work for the Nerd Element.
Cool.
I wanted to ask you about The Masked Singer. What has been the most challenging production for you on that show, and what has been the most fun?
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a big question. I would say that the most challenging production was the actual production itself in season 1. If you just imagine sort of my journey with the show was, I heard about the show. I was very excited. Ooh, a big Fox stage show that involves music. This is so cool. And when I learned about the show and it was told to me that, you know, it's a format that started in Asia and Thailand and Korea. You should check it out on YouTube. And this is a show where celebrities are going to dress up in big, outrageous costumes, and you're going to guess who they are. And so there was a moment of, you know, what is my career? You know, what is this? And then there's a follow-up moment of like, you know, it's my job to sort of make this transferable to the audience and make it cool. And what are these costumes like? And so there was a lot of discussions on how do we make that for an American audience. And this is the most challenging and the most rewarding, because looking at superheroes and how Spider-Man and Batman and all these Marvel characters can become super cool to audiences was an approach on how to take Masked Singer with these costumes and look at them as sort of superheroes. And what did their world look like? So for backstage, I studied the Batcave and Batman's lair, and where he hung up all those costumes in backstage was a very transferable point for design for me. And then the stage really was birthed out of Burning Man and Coachella and opera. And so you could get these, it sounds crazy, but like these sort of superheroes that were, that their costumes were really like appreciated on like the sort of operatic stage. And so ultimately, that has been the biggest challenge as I look back on the show. From here on out, it's just been fun. You know, designing clues and performances and understanding, you know, I actually don't know who the celebrities are. They keep all the secrecy down to like a very handful of people. But trying to guess and as well as embrace those characters and make background stories to those characters is probably it's just so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Desiree. Casey, I'm going to unmute you next.
Perfect. Hi, this is Casey Mendoza. I'm the pop culture reporter for Newsy. This is a bit of a two-part question, but what are the most, especially now, the most common conversations you're having about health and safety with in-person productions and live stage work now? And what are the biggest things you're keeping in mind as a production designer, even though I'm sure everything is so unprecedented and different?
Oh my God, this is such a good question, because I just want to let you know. I own a design studio. I design variety shows for a living. I probably do between 25 and 30 a year. We maintain series, and we also do, my favorite stuff is the new stuff. With the pandemic hit, we obviously hit a little bit of a slowdown, but then an incredible amount was sort of like standing in front of a fire hose, because suddenly what you don't realize is everyone needs good design right now. Everyone needs solutions. You don't have audiences anymore. And for thousands of years on a stage production, you've leaned into what an audience would transfer in energy to the performance. And suddenly, what do we do, James? What can we do? So exploring technology has been an immediate ask. But I will tell you, Casey, some of the things I'm hearing every single day. Now, I don't go through every COVID class like my fiance does, who's in production at Netflix. He hears all the COVID rules all the time. We talk about them over dinner sometimes. But what I hear as a designer is I need to redesign the desk for all the judges. Everybody needs to be 6 feet apart. We need to design solutions for audiences over and over and over again. But ultimately, what we're what's netting out is we cannot reveal that we're in a pandemic. We don't want to see plexi barriers. This is not a negative approach. This is an upgrade to the world. This is a chance to redesign negative spaces that we need for physical distancing in a way where we can fill it with design and artful elements and things to enhance the story and mood. And so it's been an exciting time for a designer. You know, everybody needs solutions, and we're happy to give our partners and our clients as much as we can and explore. And we're learning all the time. I mean, sometimes it's been tough, but that's where I'm at. Yeah, judges' desks, audiences, and negative space to fill has been nonstop. And really, it's exciting. I will say the next batch of shows that comes out in fourth quarter, right? They're all starting to be produced a little bit now and then. Maybe in the new year, in the spring, you'll see really incredible art, because that's where you need to lean into to fill and give that vibe to the viewer at home. So watch The Masked Singer next season. I mean, what we're doing with AR and virtual is unbelievable. Watch the award shows and the big variety shows, because they're the ones who are sort of the test pilots in production right now to get things out there and try COVID rules and see things. And the fun stuff that we're making is exciting. So it's cool.
Thank you, Casey. Kai, I'm unmuting you next.
Hey, Kai.
Kai from the Geekiary. My question kind of builds on what you were just talking about. A long time ago, relatively, there was the very long writer's strike, and we had a big surge in television that came out of that. You talked a little bit about how people are going to be adapting what we're doing now for COVID rules, but do you think that there's any kind of like new medium or new expression of media that's going to come out of us having to suddenly make a whole bunch of content without touching?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is by far and away bigger than any writer's strike ever could imagine to influence. You have an entire industry, a huge global industry, all entertainment, not working, trying to figure out how to tell stories. And the demand for stories is huge. And everybody's looking to design, writers and directors to figure out new ways to do that. So this is a major renaissance. I mean, I've had multiple conversations with VFX houses and animators, for instance, because they can tell stories without a lot of people on site to create a production. So they can create them in the computer, create them with their hands, and make those stories without a lot of COVID safety risks. I think there's a huge awakening to VFX industry and the pre-production industry looking at virtual production. I think what's happening now, I'm not sure it's a sudden run to it, but I think everybody's self-educating on what they can do to minimize footprints on stage. And the answer right now is virtual production. And if people can understand that and try to harness good quality out of that, I think, for instance, The Mandalorian is probably the most talked about show on the planet. And it's because even though they did it on Solo, even though they did the same thing on Solo, we're talking about The Mandalorian, the virtual backgrounds mixed with a physical element in front that can give the actor something to react to in a single camera narrative is everyone's learning about it. Everyone's trying to understand it. It's making the VFX industry upside down because it's something that happens now in pre-pro and during production as opposed to post. And I think that in the future, we'll never go back to the way it was done. I think we're finding new efficiencies. I think that we'll miss the way it used to be, and I think we'll go back immediately, but then we'll sort of bounce back and sort of see what we learned from this and combine it to some really exciting stuff. So I feel like virtual production is what to keep your eye on, and I think that everybody's looking at it.
Thank you, Kai. Swar, I'm unmuting you next.
Hi, thanks so much for being with us. I actually want to build off of that previous question. There's a couple of previous questions. We're talking about the VFX industry, the animation industry, but I'm more now interested about VFX, and as you were talking about The Mandalorian, and so many of these large productions are using so much more special effects that it can almost replace the sense of being in somewhere real and somewhere felt. And we've had this discourse in film Twitter among critic circles for so many years now. So what can really be that appeal of the VFX realm when audiences still, for sure, still do want something quote unquote real or something that can be felt? And in particular, I am wondering about that sort of, how do you still introduce that human element, especially in the time of COVID? And, are you going to get to the point where actors will like be recording themselves in separate places and then try to splice it together? I mean, I know this is sort of an open-ended question, but like my mind is now open to possibilities, but I'm also like almost concerned about, how storytelling is going to go. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you're asking the same questions everybody is. And, like there are millions of people asking the same exact questions. And the truth of the matter is set right now is probably the safest place to be. They are taking so many precautions. I mean, you have people in gowns, face masks, face shields, pre-tested the 2 days before. There are literally guardrails up for 6-foot distancing on sets. I mean, it's more safe than the grocery store or walking your dog outside. I mean, it's beyond safe. And so I feel like minimal people is what COVID rules are demanding, and distance. I don't think they're asking for isolation. And so as we stay with this and learn about storytelling with minimal people and minimal footprint, it's a chance to look at other industries that do it well. And they're looking at the video game industry. They're looking at feature films and single camera narratives. They're looking at smaller footprints, live events, parking lots outside where those were events. And they're just trying to pull solutions from any direction and mix it, because it's really, like we said, unprecedented, and it's a time to explore any solution. So in terms of virtual production, what VFX industry is great at is photorealistic details and technicians, right? Like they can take production work, they can be present on productions on site, but they can take that content, and they can make it something with green screen markers and stuff like that. But suddenly there's a demand to have all those people now in the beginning of the production. And so you've got to ask the VFX industry to work with the people who create the initial story environments in the beginning, like the production designers, like myself, like the DPs. And now they're forced to play together, which is completely upending their process. And they're trying to figure out how that works. And so it's a lot of stumble, and there's a lot of education, and there's a lot of people talking to each other that's never talked to each other before, and it's really exciting. I feel like, just to address the last point that you made in terms of how do you get this to the audience? Well, if you can get it to the talent, if you can make that world believable to the actor or the contestant, then the audience is going to feel that. And so for decades, we've used green screen, but that's not very good for giving the actor something to work from. Like a green dummy with a stick, that kind of stinks. But an LED screen with a pre-rendered photoreal backdrop that moves is a place where the actor can feel alive, or the contestant. And so I feel like that's brand new technology, and that's what's being embraced now to use for storytelling. And we'll see. I mean, it makes people nervous. When you're going to go ahead and spend $10 million on something, you want to check all your boxes and cross all your T's first. So people are definitely just learning, self-educating, looking at the risk takers. But I'll say we'll see a lot more of it in the future.
Thank you, Swar. Ginger, please go ahead.
Yes, hi. It's so great to meet you here and be here. Thank you for the opportunity. So with all of this talk or news, everyone knows about COVID, the coronavirus, and it impacts so many different industries. And you've just very eloquently talked about how it's impacted the industry, your specific niche in the industry, processes being turned upside down. how has if you have noticed it, and it sounds like you have, how has your personal process been changed? It sounds like there's a lot more collaboration happening now because, like you said, things that are happening maybe toward the later bit of a process are now being moved up, and different people who maybe didn't have to work together as much, if at all, are now being, I say forced, are being put into situations where they have to make these decisions closer to the top. So how is your personal process, like when you take on a new assignment, a new job, and you start, whether it's researching a time period or looking at who the people that will be, the talent who will be there, the other people that you'll be working with, how has your personal process been affected? And as far as the effects on the industry, have you noticed what you yourself have been doing?
Oh God, yeah, Ginger, thanks. I mean, the variety world is the guinea pigs of production right now. And so we are in every direction exploring anything because we're risk takers. We don't have high level celebrities all the time. We can do small shows and big shows. So we're out there for sure. We're working. It has forced me beyond my comfort zone in so many things, but I'll just hit on a couple. For the last 6 years, I've used Epic Games Unreal software to design. It's created a way for me to eliminate render times in my studio, for me to see immediate results, and to time crunch, right? I'm gonna change the light to red. I don't have to wait 20 minutes for it to render out. I can just see it right there. I have never told that to anybody. It's been a secret ingredient. I am now screen sharing with every director to show real-time rendering, to get him to see what I'm seeing immediately so that we can get decisions fast and get an agreement. So without delaying, emailing, going to a meeting in person. That's been awesome, but it's also been revealing something that is my workflow, you know? And so that's been great. And it's also opened me up to new technology because we're so fluent in Unreal. I would say though, there's a what's the right word? There's another side to this. You know, everybody's nervous, everybody's scared. Like I just said, before you spend $10 million, you got to understand. So part of my world is to also translate what I'm doing in the way we've always done it. So if we're going to make a virtual production, and I've been now part of 3 of them, we've got to talk about that how we used to do it. If you're going to build some scenery walls, basically, Ginger, what I say, and basically what we've noticed is it takes almost the exact amount of time to build a physical set as it does to rebuild a virtual set. I've got to hire probably a couple less carpenters, they're 3D modelers, to rebuild that, but I need the same amount of time because it's just probably the same amount of work. I mean, I'm going to model up each little bolt head, and one guy in a shop is going to hammer in those bolt heads. So you got to sort of understand how you're navigating that process to the client. Well, I'll just say client because it could be a director or a producer or whatnot. So it's relatable to what we just did before March. So it's a lot. And I would say those are my 2 big ones.
How, because of this change and because of your entree into the industry, what advice would you give someone going forward now? Because there is, as you said, there's no going back. There might be elements of back, but no back. What advice would you give someone now as opposed to March who wants to get involved in this industry?
This is the best time to get involved in this industry. We had an intern about to start with us in May from the Television Academy. We host the Television Academy internship in my studio for the last 6 or 7 years. And this poor guy, Grayson from North Carolina, thank God he's a junior, so he'll have another year to apply. Went through the entire process of sending the portfolio, got chosen, and then this horrible pandemic hit. But to be honest with you, we had a mentorship session, a 1 hour, a couple of times. I told him, this feels like, to me, when I moved out to California at the time of 9/11, where things were just a little upside down, a real chance to not have to break into something so conventional, where people were looking for any solution possible, to insert yourself in a space where you could become really needed. I said, look at this as an opportunity to help people rethink. You're engaged in software they don't know. This is a great time to enter the industry. My advice is to not follow any sort of conventional process that was, handed down through the history of scenography. We're not to think about building an environment in any way you could, and rethinking how you can, and throwing out ideas is welcome in this world right now. And I think you're going to see a lot of change. I think you're going to see a lot of people moving out from different careers that they didn't necessarily love, relationships they didn't necessarily were a part of. There's going to be a lot of job openings this fall and winter, and I think that it's a great time to get started. And I think people just need to keep themselves open-minded.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you, Ginger. Gareth, go ahead.
Hi, this is Garrett at Student Reviewed, and I had a couple of questions. You were talking about the virtual sets and that sort of thing, and I'm curious about what emerging tech beyond that are you most interested in? And when a new technology like that comes out, is it essentially learn as you go, or there are classes that you take, or a mix of the two to become proficient at it? Thank you.
For sure. Gareth, you make me realize that I'm probably yelling, so thank you. I think that it's a new technology, and I'm mostly interested in added on software to Unreal that can help add value to the current rendering process of Unreal. I work mostly in multi-camera television, and that adds another level of difficulty to making Unreal work on a wraparound background screen, an LED screen, and it adds a little bit more complication in some of the technical pipelines of linking servers to those cameras, and how do they all talk to each other. Very interested in all that. There is no college class or MFA program in this, so I've been doing most of my education when I can by engaging with people in groups like on Facebook or Reddit, looking at a general YouTube just to refresh my memory, and just talking to some people who use the program in different ways than television is where I've been learning. And it's really just kind of staying active in conversations about it and sending out a problem like a flare in an empty ocean to anyone who will answer, is where I'm kind of teaching myself. And I have to guide a team, and thankfully my team is smarter than me, so they've been teaching me too. And so they're boots on the ground in the software all the time when I'm taking more Zooms, but I am learning myself. And so yeah, there's no prescribed method. If you want to learn, I have learned so much from Facebook and Reddit and a couple of YouTube videos. So practice.
Thank you, Gareth. Liana, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much, James, for taking and doing this. Liana from Culture Slate. We've got two questions. The first is, you talked about showing other people your process. What have you learned from others that you've now incorporated into your workflow? And secondly, your positivity is just admirable, especially through all this. Some people would just like melt down, and some people have, but you found ways to become more creative, avenues to really expand. So how do you, what do you do to motivate yourself and keep that positivity?
Oh, cool. Sure. Well, I have learned so much from other people, particularly other industries. I said fiance. We in my personal life, we've had to push our wedding a couple times now for COVID. But I'm learning so much about how to talk to people from talking to the wedding planner. She is wonderful in navigating a very personal process, basically about design,
Right.
that I'm learning to transfer to my clients. And it's, I would say, probably the most from that, which is sort of exciting. In terms of positivity, listen, honey, we all have our moments, right? There are times where I am right on Redfin and like, I am moving out of here. I am over this. I am exhausted. But looking back on this process with going through the pandemic, I'm motivated by my team. There was a time where I was just like, I just have to get up and go and just sort of make sure that everybody feels like we're going to be okay. And so some of it's been faking it, to be honest with you, and just making sure that the team knows I've got it under control and I'm hitting the pavement hard, and providing a sense of confidence to them. And to be honest with you, when you do that and they feel good and they're bringing the artwork alive, it brings it right back to you. And there's just sort of like this bouncing back of energy where you're like, oh, we're actually okay. And I didn't really think that was going to happen, but because they're doing okay and now I'm doing okay, it's all been great. So they keep me alive. My team has been so awesome. And besides that, I love to take a hike and listen to a podcast on the weekends and sort of have a laugh and, you know, have a drink. So that's basically.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Liana. Desiree, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I feel like I'm about to derail the conversation because I want to ask about something you did in the past pre-COVID.
Sure.
But that's okay, and it's about your work on The Kids Are All Right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was just curious about how you went about creating that world, and I guess to tie it into the COVID thing, how you would go about creating that world now.
It's ages ago, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like forever ago.
Yeah, can't believe people even remember that movie still.
It's a great movie. What are you talking about?
It was a good movie. It was like, who knew it was going to be Oscar nominated, though, to be honest with you.
Right.
That's, all of a sudden, I did it in a couple of months. They asked me to do all the prep design work for a brilliant designer, Julie Berghoff, who we're friends now. And we had a nice relationship thereafter for a while I was an art director. Essentially, I was brought in a little sort of parachute style. They needed somebody to come in and help them previs a lot of their build elements. And Julie gave me the responsibility of putting together a lot of ideas and design ideas and previs for WYSIWYG, his bar. It was built out of a train station down in Silver Lake, and I built it all out the patio, and didn't get as much camera time as I wanted, but it got enough. And the interior. And I got it because I was really fluent in 3D, and they needed it bad. And this was 2006, 2000, maybe even, I don't even know. And so the 3D world was just kind of, you know, it was a little rough and crude, and people were generally still faxing back then, you know, in production and penciling things out. And so I came in and I built everything out in 3D. All of WYSIWYG, all of the houses, built their little homes, and could work with Julie on being three-dimensionally inside and then pulling out construction plates. And so I prepared the show and got it all ready for the shoot. When it came time to the shoot, they pared it down because of the budget to just a very, very small staff. And so it was great to see on camera. It was wonderful. And then who knew it got an Oscar nomination from that. So I was really excited. It was a different experience for me from my general reality world back then. And I brought a lot of appreciation back to reality when I did that movie, because I realized, you know what we're doing in reality television or variety television, but mostly back then it was like reality, is we're really still telling the story through an environment. Why wouldn't we put some thought process into this? If Julie Berghoff is going to make a fun little house for these characters, we can make the same choices in a reality show. Why not? Like we could take this medium seriously. So there was like a little bit of a mind shift from that show. So I keep it a little close to my heart, but it was a quick one, and I didn't realize it was going to be such a hit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, Desiree. Hi, Kai. Please go ahead.
Hi, Kai from the Geeky Area again. You have worked on some really fun, playful shows that are more kind of everyone's in good humor and being good sports than being super competitive. Is there like a design secret that goes into when you're working to try to encourage that kind of just like a positive vibe rather than, you know, getting all cutthroat and snipey?
I think the ones that require like big flashes of character are easy for me, because you can probably tell from understanding who I am. I just put that personality straight into it. I really like risk taking and bold moves. I really like my presence to be felt in a design. And I like I describe my work as, I work in unscripted, so I'm the script, really. I'm gonna create the situation for these people to interact with. And I like playing that role a little bit. It's a little strange, but it makes me feel important. So the fun ones, because of maybe my personality, is the ones that are just goofy, you know what I mean? Like the holy molies and the ultimate tags and that sort of job is really exciting because you can just do whatever you want. You know what I mean? It's big, fabulous character world building, you know, and I love it. And I don't have to read, you know, like it's like, my dad's an architect, and he says there's an equation where, you know, environment plus personality equals a behavior. And I believe it because if I can my environment can mix with whatever actor or talent or contestant is in this space, we're going to get the story out of it. So, you know, I push the limits. I just try anything. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey again. So I would just like, you've worked on a huge variety of projects. So I'm just like wondering what tends to draw you to a particular project. And this might be too much of an ask, but is there some sort of almost universal theme or takeaway you want audiences to get from your projects generally?
Ooh. I take a project, people pitch me projects. It's weird to be in that part of your life. And if I feel like it's, you know, if it's cool, if it's exciting, if I would want to be on it or do it, I'll take it for sure. And I'll find a way how to do it. Some projects, you know, I mean, you have to pay payroll, right? So some projects, you know, you have to make yourself want to do it. And be on it. And that's also a challenge. And then sometimes the project's just totally impossible. It's out of our world. It's not going to fit into our schedule. So I look at projects differently. I like different ones though, most importantly. I don't want to fall into the same creative rut. And so, you know, there comes a point with a cooking project where you're like, I'm taking this because I want to make this different than the other ones I'm doing. And I'm going to challenge myself with this. But I love a unique idea to sort of cross-pollinate the other stuff that I do. So that's exciting too. Like the miniature golf of Holy Moly at first was like, oh my God, you know what? This is completely out of my world. It's miniature golf, how boring. But I took it because it was, I could sort of make it so big and fabulous and sort of, you know, fun, I guess. But also, I've learned so much from that production and on how to build a footprint in a world that works. And so I use internally the sort of miniature golf example when I build a world. You know, are we either doing the sort of symmetrical, very tight jewel box, or are we going to look at this like a miniature golf course where we're sort of spread out with a few different lands? And it's taught me a ton, and it's been like a great thing to look back on and sort of be like, when you hear a project, you're just sort of like, wait, no. I think I can take this because I'm going to learn a lot. So, yeah, they're all different. They should all be different.
Thank you, Swara. Jimmy, you'll be our last question for this. Thank you.
Jimmy, love your background.
Oh, lucky guess. Hey, my name's Jimmy. I'm from Saturday Morning Serial. Thanks for hanging out today, James.
Cool.
I want to say that Holy Moly is mine and my kids' favorite new show to come out of this 120-day whatever lockdown, whatever's going on. That's really a treat, and we really enjoy it. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what's the pitch session like for that? Do they come to you with ideas? Are you designing all these holes? And also, are there any holes that got shot down and you weren't able to use?
Oh, yeah. There were so many holes that were shot down. And basically that was between producers thinking through the game and the play and the timing of the play and the difficulty with the contestants of the play. All sorts of different variables go into those challenges, and the budgets. And they worked that out a little bit with ABC and myself to navigate a little bit, ballpark. And then together, basically would come out the game. And then sometimes I themed it out, and sometimes they came up with a theme, like space or something like that. But so I would say, Jimmy, it's like a collaboration, really, in terms of, but it generally would start with like the producers pitching an obstacle to hit a ball through, and then it would go through a round of quick budgeting, a round of pitching to the network, and then back to a sort of theme to tie it together.
So they would come to you and say, we want a hole and we want to call it Uranus. And then you would throw a couple pitches at them?
Yep, basically. And, you know, with design, it's you're using the tools that you have on site. And so Uranus came from the Arc de Triomphe, the Paris one from season 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right on. Thank you. Thanks for your
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. That's the end of our press conference today.